Hello and welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show, live stream and podcast. My name is Rich Natoli, your regular host of the show, joined as always by the most lovely, the most talented Ed Gobo, owner of Captain Hank's Tackle. Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You forgot to mention the irregular host.
The irregular? No, you've been regular host lately, so you're back in the good graces of everybody.
Yeah, sorry about that. Soccer season's over, so I have more time to play.
It's over for now, but your kid's playing higher levels, so it's going to very quickly turn into winter soccer, indoor soccer, year-round, thousands of dollars soccer.
Yeah,
Ask me how I know.
I'm just about there. They actually won their conference though.
That's awesome.
First season playing in the EDP level for whatever the local is. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive. That's some serious competition there, and New Jersey has some serious good teams and clubs in there. I used to hate playing New Jersey.
Yeah,
they were good. They were good, and all of y'all New Jersey parents are just insane on the sidelines. Dude,
yes.
We were at a game once, and this was, I think my son was only like 11 or 12, and the coach started flipping out, and he started picking up the kids' bags and throwing them. The kids were flipping out on the team because they all had their iPhones in there. He's throwing them, kicking them, and he gets kicked out, right? Then the parents decide they want to fight our parents. And we're like, what are you doing? These kids are like, they're going to go home and watch SpongeBob. Calm down.
Oh, man. We had a coach freak out and call all of us, including our kids, a-holes. So that was fun. And he canceled the game. They had like, I think it was the first, not even into the first half. And they they were getting beat pretty hard. And they just called it right in the middle of the game. Didn't even get to halftime.
Man, I can't say much though, because you get your the Pennsylvania people are pretty bad too. It depends on where you are and what teams there are. There were a couple of times where my son got sick of it, and one he flipped off the sideline and they went bananas. He thought it was funny. The kids on the other team thought it was hilarious that he did it. I thought it was funny. My wife didn't think it was funny.
Nah, moms usually don't think that stuff's funny.
No, but
they do think fishing's cool, though. That's what we're here to talk about.
Yes, we are going to talk a little bit of fishing. Have you been out lately? Loaded question.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, let's hear about it real quick.
So I was on vacation last week. We did the tournament with Don, so that kicked off the vacation. Went togging with Captain Mike, on A-Bomb charters. I took my dad out. This is the first time he caught tog in like 20 years, so he was having a ball.
Yeah.
Nothing of magnitude, but it was just a good day on the water. Went out and saw some epic striper blitzes up by Island Beach. There was bunker you could walk across. A thresher shark was tailing. That was pretty neat. I saw a whale breach a couple of times. It was just like National Geographic. There's no better way to describe it.
Yeah.
And then Thursday I hung out with Paul from Great Bay. We did some running around, got crabs. And then Friday, we were chasing tuna. And we found them, but by the time we would get to them, they'd go back down and couldn't get a shot. So
yeah. Did you see you did see the video from Scotty Sevens hooking into that huge, I don't know if he ended up getting spooled or not. I didn't ask him yet. But I do want to mention that Scotty is going to become a regular guest on this live stream and podcast. So we'll get him in here soon, and he's going to be a regular guest. I almost co-host with the amount of
at that point.
Yeah, he's going to be on probably at least once a month. But man, if you guys haven't seen that, check out his page, and it just shows him hooking in. It's not work friendly, so keep the volume down, because you can just say Scotty got really excited and he let everybody know how excited he was. But it looked like it was going to spool him. No matter what he was doing, he's fishing solo. He's working the center console. He's hammering that throttle, and it's just peeling line. So,
and that boat has some horsepower, and he's got twins on that thing.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. Tonight we have on Frank Mihalic, and we're going to talk about blackfish and the. Now, listen, we have people in multiple states, right? So we have people I know all the way up to Maine, and we've got people all the way down to Florida. And Florida, you're not going to get the blackfish there, but all the way down into Virginia, you're going to. And that's what we're going to talk about. So blackfish, tautog, tog, white chinners. That's what we're talking about. So with that said, I'm going to bring on Frank Mihalic and bring him online right now. Frank, welcome back. Oh, he can't hear us. Oh, this could be fun. No, I can hear you, Frank. No, not yet. While he's trying to get his microphone working, I want to know in the chat, what did you guys think of the thumbnail for this? The Chips, Ponch, and John. And what's the captain's name? That's Frank. Can't hear you yet, Frank.
I don't know. I don't know what his name is.
It is an absolutely
I used to love watching that show when I was a kid, man.
yeah. I'm going to encourage people to take a look. Just Google Chips photo, and you'll see the photo that we doctored in order to get our faces onto them. And take a look at the captain, and it does look like Frank fits perfectly in there. So he's going to be the boss. He's the captain. Yeah, so Frank's going to jump out and jump back in to get it working. But I thought that was hilarious.
I'll take credit for that one.
Yeah, that was your idea. I did the editing. It was tough though, because I had to do it in black and white. While we're here and while Frank is trying to reconnect, let's go through and just mention the people that are here. So we have Larry Matzinger, Rob Woodmeyer, James Flynn, KB is here, Fat Bass Outdoors, Crabbing and Fishing, MR Johnson, Peter Niblick, White Perch, and Kwa is here, that Asian angler. Good to see you here as well, Kwa. So everyone, great to see you. We had asked last week whether it was striped bass or it was tog season, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, and it came out that it was striped bass. But Frank is one of those guys, like Nick Devereaux. I don't know if you ever watch his things. Nick doesn't care one bit about striped bass. All he cares about is tog fishing. So we're going to see if we'll check and see if Frank is back. Keeps bouncing back in and out. KB, good to see you, man. It's good to see you back. So that's what we're going to be going through is the tog fishing. And we're not going to go into all the details. You know, we're not going to make Frank give a clinic tonight like he's done in the past. You guys can go back and watch those, but we are going to talk about some tips and early season. Frank, is that working for you? No.
Muted.
Yeah, he's not muted on our side though. All right, so let's talk. So you went out. You were out tog fishing on Atom Bomb.
Yes.
Right, or A Bomb.
A Bomb
fishing out of Atlantic City, right?
And
what were you using? Let's just talk early season. Were you guys doing anything different? Were you using jigs, rigs? What were you using?
So I had just built the rod that is more so designed for rig. So I was rig fishing like 2 to 3 ounce, depending on where we were on the wreck. And it was doing really well. It fought the fish hard, and it met my expectations for what I wanted.
How deep were you?
We were fishing probably trying to stay on the shallow side of 50. 45 to 50 in that range.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the water temp was.
Hey, Frank, go into the private chat that you can see there.
So yeah, we left out of Atlantic City, fished some of the local wrecks. I think the biggest fish was like 15 and a half, 16 inches. So nothing big was biting. And then we ended up trying to switch over for bass a little later on and trolled around for a bit. But we didn't, no takers on the bass end of it, but it was a cool trip.
I got to get out there. We were talking, and it's one thing that I wanted to talk about tonight. we had mentioned doing a trip,
Mhm.
and we had mentioned maybe doing it on the Osprey. That seems like a good centrally located boat. It's a great boat, great captain, great crew, by the way.
Yes.
If anyone, and we're not affiliated with Osprey at all, but if you want to get out there on the water for Tog, I highly recommend them. And on top of that, it's a new boat this year, so it's a bigger boat than it's been in previous years. But they come down from New York every season, and they're docked in Atlantic City. And we talked about that. I would like to get that set up. So I think next week we should just announce like the date that we're going to be there, and we're not going to block off the boat. We're not going to do anything like that. We're not going to like reserve spots for everybody. But what we are going to do is find a day that has a lot of open spots, right? And then we'll announce it on the live stream, and then we will have booked our tickets on there, and then once we do that, we'll let all of you know, and then you can all try to get in, and let's see how many people we can get on the boat at one time. I think it'll be fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on that boat. Hopefully the new one's faster.
They're all slow.
No,
They're
the
all
old one
slow.
was real slow.
It was kind of slow. It's a comfortable boat though. It is
Oh
comfortable
yeah,
inside.
absolutely.
And it's always good people on there. And I don't remember the mate's name, but man, just good people on that boat. I love going out on it. All right, Frank, are you
I'm
able
good
to
to
talk?
go.
There you go.
We can hear you.
Sorry about that. I had a moment.
Dude, you know what? It's live, and everybody watching, and Ed and I, it is what it is. We've had it happen multiple times. It's happened to Ed before.
Mm-hmm.
I think it happened to me once too.
I think we had, yeah, you had real bad issues.
Yeah,
And we had one guest just not even show up.
Oh.
it
No,
happens.
and we were sitting here talking for 15 minutes before the live stream started.
Yeah,
And then at 8 o'clock, my do not disturb came on, and boop, that was that.
well, man, now lesson learned for the next time, right?
Here we go.
Don't do not disturb yourself.
Right. I
Oh,
got to
that's so
shut them
funny.
off.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Frank, let's get into the black fishing. So, New Jersey, and again, it's been open in a lot of states, like New York. They've been hammering them for a little while, but we have the expanded limits in New Jersey. So, let's just approach this like the beginning of the season, because it's only what, 4 days old,
Yeah.
5 days old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what are you looking at right now as the start of the season? What's your approach? Are you doing the quick fishing with the jigs, or are you going straight to rigs?
Yeah, you're fishing a lot closer to the beaches where you have fish anywhere from the back bays. And, you're not going out further than you need to. You want to get really good action. It just so happened yesterday, we were happy to get out at all after Saturday's blowout. So we were fishing the OC Reef yesterday. We were in like 55 foot of water. We were fishing jigs and rigs. Trying to stick with mostly smaller pieces of bait because you're not playing the big fish game yet,
Right.
so you're fishing with like half of a green crab, that type of thing. There were a couple times yesterday where I fished like a half of a white legger with 2 hooks in it. But yeah, you just kind of have to be a little patient. I really look at this part of the season as like warm up. I'm fishing through a lot of small fish. I'm trying to get some big ones, and I'm just trying to really hone my skills to get ready for big fish time.
Yeah, well, it's a different bite, right? I mean, that's one thing that I personally have always struggled with is and maybe it's just the way I'm wired, but I struggle switching species sometimes. And when it's a difference between a species like a fluke or a striped bass and a tog, I mean, those are totally different bites.
Mhm.
And it can take me a little bit to get onto that. Now, once I get locked in on it, I'm good for the season. But it
Dialed.
happens to me. It happens to me when we switch into the fall fishing and winter fishing. When we go to the bottom fishing for it's really blackfish is what messes me up, right?
Because they're so weird.
They are weird. Yeah,
And they bite different every day, and even during times of the day, the bite will change.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I really I should get a practice trip in, but I'm not going to. I just don't have the time. I'm gonna just every fishing trip for the rest of this year and for this season, I have to make it worth it. So I'm going to have to just learn on the fly, relearn on the fly. But I notice it also when fluke season opens. Even though I haven't fished for like a month for anything because blackfish, you're not out there on them. It's the last fish that I went for. So fluke opens and now I'm treating it like a blackfish. And I'm like, this is just not working, and sheep's head in the middle of a flounder fishing day. That's the worst. That, oh my God, that's the absolute worst for me. But I get the point about getting back into the swing of things, getting everything down. But you're naturally a black fisherman.
Naturally, yeah, like I naturally like to hit myself in the head with a hammer. I really like to punish myself. You know what? I just really am very passionate about black fishing. And I think it had to do with the fact that when I was so young, it was just such an obscure fish. It was a type of fish that all of a sudden I'm 20 years old and I'm hearing about this fish that I never heard of before.
Yeah.
And I started to kind of grasp onto it, and everything was so different about it. And I guess I really enjoyed the challenge.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely a challenge. It's one that I look forward to. And it's one that I didn't look forward to until recently, just the last few years. To me, tog fishing, when I was growing up, we did it. There was a guy, he was a cameraman for the Philadelphia Eagles. And my little brother somehow met him, this older guy, and he came over to our house. He's like, look, he talked to my dad. He's like, look, can I take your son out to the bridge and go tog fishing? I know you don't know me. Here's who I am. And for some reason, my dad said yes. So my brother goes out there and they are slaying tog. But these are like small bridge tog in the summer.
Yeah.
And I don't even think there were limits on them back then. They didn't bring a lot home, but they were catching. I'm standing on the bridge looking down and they're just slaying them. So that's what it was to me. Just like I thought sea bass were only those little tiny things that you got in the bay, the little, like puffer, well, even smaller than puffer fish, but totally different thing. But I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get out there. Frank, we got to get you on a charter boat, or not a charter, a party boat with us. You ever do that?
And every now and then that happens.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to try.
I'm just kind of kicking it around for this year because this year, things are kind of changing, and I usually charter every Saturday and Sunday with the thought process that if Saturday gets blown out, I have a chance to go Sunday. But I think I'm going to reach a point where I think maybe next year, maybe I'll just charter like every Saturday. And if Saturday blows out and I want to go on a Sunday, I'll go hop on a headboat somewhere, because it's just so much, man. And I have one stretch now. I'll do it for certain boats. Like I have one stretch where I'm on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I'm on Fishing Fever every day. Man, if all 4 of those trips go, I'm going to be in a coma.
Yeah, you are.
And broke.
And broke.
I'll be okay. I saved my money.
Well, but you're down a boat from your normal fleet. Allison's Nightmare is no longer.
Well,
going,
right. And, and Chris really loves marlin fishing. Chris Voss is very passionate about marlin fishing. And to do it out of Jersey, that's really a unique skill, and Chris is good at it. But in order for him to run offshore in a single diesel down easter, it just wasn't very efficient, So Chris actually sold the Allison's Nightmare, and it was actually bought by a guy who's headed north through the intercoastal. And from what I understand, he's having a little clearance issues in a few spots, and he's having a little hard time getting it there. But Chris bought a Buddy Davis, and he's got that all rigged up. So next year he will be marlin fishing out of South Jersey Marine, or Utches in Cape May. So, anybody who wants to go marlin fishing, you're on a Buddy Davis, you're going to get there a lot quicker than an old down easter.
Yeah, I got to say, he was one of the captains I would have loved to have fished on his boat. I don't know that I'm going to be able to be going out on marlin trips, but yeah, there are a few captains that you want to get out with at least once. He was one of them. Unfortunately, my list is still pretty big of captains that I'd like to go on the charters with, but various species too. Like even Scotty. I haven't even gone with Scotty yet, but there are others. Pastorino was something. He's an interesting dude. We went out last year. He is an interesting dude.
Well, I kind of had to redo redo my charters, which captains I charter with. And yesterday I actually fished for the first time out of Summers Point on a boat called Mover. And that was a real nice boat, really good captain. And then I'm fishing with Atom Bomb out of Cape May, Vindictive out of Cape May. And I have a few trips with Legal Limit out of Cape May. So I kind of, with Chris was, my favorite guy, and he was really, really good to us. But unfortunately, things all can't stay the same. So we had to, figure out plan B. So here we are.
Yeah. Well, Adam on the Atom Bomb is another that I've wanted to fish with him for 2 decades now.
Mm-hmm.
And I still haven't gotten out with him. So you got a good list of boats out there.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the early season. So right now the water temperatures, they keep going up and down. Now I'm thinking it's got to start consistently dropping. What are you specifically looking for as far as water temperatures when it's going to kick off?
When you see it blow out it'll blow out of the south. Usually when the wind blows out of the south, it'll drop the water temperatures, and then it'll blow like from the northeast, and it'll kind of bump them back up this time of year.
Yeah.
But you'll notice you'll get a real hard blow and the water temp will drop 3 or 4 days. You'll get a real hard blow and the water temp will drop 3 or 4 degrees. And all of a sudden, the bite will be off for a little bit. It'll take a couple days for them to acclimate, but then they're really going to start chewing. Like the way they were chewing yesterday, it's not that they were not committal, but you would get little, scratch, and then maybe they would come back and finish it. When our first drop, I really couldn't even get them to eat green crabs. I had to feed them white crabs to get them going. It was crazy. Once that water temp starts to drop, they're going to start chewing with some reckless abandon, and that's what we're really looking for the inshore bite to really go off.
Yeah, so you almost need the opposite of what the striped bass surf fishermen are looking for. They want the west winds, northwest, southwest. You want the straight south, which is what kills the fluke fishing in the spring.
You're going to see it drop, whatever makes that water temp drop. And then when you get the really bad drops, when you have like later on in the year, when you have like a snowstorm, even worse than like a snowstorm at the shore would be like a snowstorm at like Philadelphia or North Jersey, where it really dumps a whole lot into the Delaware River. And by the time that comes down out of the bay and it hits reef site 11, like I don't really want to get a whole bunch of dirty, really cold water dumping into reef site 11. That's what normally really puts a hurting on the fishing. And that doesn't usually happen until after New Year's.
Right.
But if you do get that little artificial shot, if you get a really bad storm, it could shut the fishery down early, badly. Yeah. Hey, Bruno,
that's an interesting point. Wait, you got your dog there?
Yeah, you want to see him?
Of course, dogs are always welcome on here. Not as easy to pick up as Starla. Oh. Wow, getting
my boy Bruno.
Is that the new dog?
Yup.
Yeah, that dog was smaller when I saw the picture.
Yeah, like 35 pounds now. He's a good boy, though. We have a lot of fun.
Man, I gotta talk to some people about training my dogs, because my dogs are a freaking nightmare.
Mine too.
They're perhaps the worst dogs ever created.
One of the guys in my crew, Darren Green, he actually trains dogs for the military.
Oh, really?
He's a tremendous asset Darren is all the time with any questions. Darren is so skilled. He'll like go there and talk to the dog, and then he talks to you. And he works on training the dog, but he really works on teaching us on understanding what the dog's doing so we can avoid, setting the dog up for failure.
Oh, I have no doubt that I've totally set my dogs up for failure.
Oh, yeah.
But Darren would look at my dogs and they would be like, they'd be booted out of the military. Dishonorable discharges. They're terrible. They're just terrible beasts. But I wanted to go back to the point that you made about the storms. And I think that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. Oftentimes we just say water temperatures. You want it to be this. The striped bass are going to start biting at 52 degrees. But not all water temperatures are created equal. And great point. That dirty, cold, fresh water coming out of the Delaware and hitting reef site 11, the next day, that's totally different than, 45-degree water coming from off the coast, the clean salt water coming off the coast. I don't think a lot of people, I don't think about that enough.
Yeah. A lot of times get a big storm like up in New York, if it dumps into the Raritan, or if it dumps into the Delaware, by the time it actually works its way down the river and out to Reef Site 11, it might be, by the time it snows and then you give it a couple days for the snow to start to melt, it might be 5 days until it affects the fishing. That's why when you're out, a lot of times you're out there fishing in the snow. The fishing's great when you're fishing in the snow.
Yeah.
5 days later, little flurries, that's nothing. But if you get 6 inches of snow, a foot of snow, might not be good.
Yeah, it changes it.
We haven't gotten a snow like that in a couple of years, so
yeah, we've been fortunate, and look, it's probably going to be the same way this year. As soon as I spent all that money on those great tires that you recommended for me, Ed, they're now all worn down. And it's just from highway. I didn't even get to use them in the snow yet. I'm so ticked off.
Yeah, well, I got 2 snow blowers, so we're not gonna see snow.
I can deal with that though. Here's one question. Frank, I don't know if you can answer this, or Ed, maybe you can, but I had a question from somebody asking about tog fishing in Virginia, right? And we all know you can tog fish in Virginia, and one really good spot to do it is the Bay Bridge. He was talking about north of that, and he was talking about the Rappahannock River. How do either of you know how salinity affects tog?
No, I don't.
It's within their range, apparently, in the Chesapeake, but I never hear anyone fishing for them except for the Bay Bridge. Frank, do you have any idea?
Well, most of the Virginia and Maryland fishing is done offshore.
Yeah.
So that would have to be like a late spring and an early fall thing. That would have to go till like maybe Thanksgiving, and then that's going to peter out. But I'm sure it's just like it is in our inshore fishery around here. Like when we fish in the back bays behind Margate and we fish the bridges, you very, very seldom catch a 6-pound fish. You just you don't see them. You catch a ton of micros, and it's a lot of fun. I'm sure it's got to be very similar to that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to me. I mean, I'm thinking Kip the Peak, all those sunken ships right there. Wouldn't it be interesting to go for tog? And he made it, I think, his mission. He's going to catch a tog right at the mouth of the Rappahannock River. And if you look at a map on the Chesapeake, that ain't too close to the ocean. But at the same time, I was fishing behind the Wye River Sanctuary area, which is like right on the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland. And wouldn't you know, Frank, I caught a flounder in the river. And so it's pretty fresh. Now I've also caught Spanish mackerel up there too, and a lot of specks, but they'll go into the fresher water. I didn't know a fluke would be sitting up that far. Now it was about as big as my hand, but
probably depends too on how much rain you've had recently. It probably has to do with what the moon phase is, what the current is like. If you haven't had rain in 2 or 3 weeks and you've got a moon tide and it's coming in, they might push way in.
Yeah.
That salt line's going to move a good bit because of those conditions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even notice, like when we're fishing up there, and I don't think you've gone with us yet when we've hit Maryland and the Chesapeake.
Mm-mm.
I don't taste the salt. Like I don't wash my hands when I'm out there. So my hands are getting wet, and all that stuff. And you can usually taste a little salt on your hands if you're not washing them and you're eating something. It's like fresh, but I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that. I think it would be really interesting though, if he's going to be pulling a tog out in that area. I think that'd be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know, and then maybe we'll have a whole other fishery that we need to get some captains taking us out, out in the middle of the Chesapeake.
I mean, as tough as tog are, I wouldn't doubt it. I really wouldn't. I mean, when you're keeping them, they take forever to go. You know what I mean? It's not like they're an instant and they're gone. So
they're a very hardy fish, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, for years I've heard so many people that fish the pilings around the piers up in the Hudson River and like pretty far up the Hudson River. So,
Okay.
Again, it has a lot to do with current flow, and I'm sure the fish don't need a tremendous amount of salinity to make sure they stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out. I'll let you know when I hear from them. But I thought that would be interesting. So, Frank, I'm going to put you on the spot. So first I'm going to ask this question: if you could only go fishing on one day before the end of this year, just based on everything what is the one day that you think would be, the time to be scheduling trips? What week would you go if you can only go during 1 week of this year?
Between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay, so you're going super late, and that's where you think you're going to get the better bite.
And I've even extended my season the first 2 weeks of January this year, because I've caught more double-digit blackfish between Christmas and New Year's. Just looking at my book, it's funny because I don't do the sticker thing. I don't put stickers on everything. I just go home and I write them down in a book. It's kind of personal for me,
Yeah.
And I noticed I think I caught like 8 double-digit blackfish in that week between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay.
So it's enough to kind of keep me looking real close at that.
Do you have trips booked this year in that time frame?
Absolutely, positively.
Okay, I was going to say, if you didn't get one, we're gonna get you out on one of those. Ed, that might be the week that we need to get the trip for everybody.
Let me know. It's got to be on a Sunday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Rick, Ed, I've invited you guys on those trips. You know how many charter trips I have this year.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and last year you did mention you were going to go into January, because you started off saying, no, it's about I'm about ready to hang it up by that time, and then we talked later, and you're like, I'm booking into January.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, my whole charter trips were up in the air. I had a chance to rework everything. Who can I fish with? Who's open here? Who's open there? And I was able to really, luckily I was able to get some really good boats on some really good dates. And the dates that you saw don't even include dates that I'm on other guys' charters on other boats.
Right.
So, like when I say I save a lot of money for this time of year, I'm not kidding.
Well, you have to. I mean, it's not cheap to go out on these. I mean, these are good boats. You're not going on the little nickel and dime tour, flipping $100 and then a $20 tip. I mean, we're talking $350 for some of these trips. It depends on how many people go, but
it's usually about two, maybe 210, 220, including the tip.
Yeah.
So not too bad. But that's if I don't have. That's why I really don't like this. That's why I haven't been fishing in like Rhode Island or in Maryland or all that, because like you go to Maryland, you drive down one night, you spend the night in a hotel, you go out to dinner, you get up the next day, you fish, and then you come home and you're absolutely beat by the time you get home. It's like by the time you add, that's like $500 just for that day. And it's the thing is, if I fish out of Indian River Inlet, Delaware, the boats down there are great, but they're fishing Reef Site 11 right next to the boats that I'm fishing on.
Right.
So I'm trying to do what works best for me, plus the fact when I do these back-to-back trips, the fact that I can stay at my house at the shore means if I do happen to go 2 or 3 days in a row, I can be off the boat, grab dinner, be showered, and be in bed at 7. That when I get up 10 hours later to make it to the boat, I got 10 solid hours of sleep.
Yeah.
If you subtract another hour driving time home and another hour driving time to the boat, my 10 hours sleep became 8 hours sleep. There's no way I'm doing 4 days in a row like that.
Right. Which is what I end up having to do.
It's too much.
The tournament that we did last week, Frank, because we had to be on the boat like at 5:30, I think. We got there at 5:30.
5:30.
Yeah. So 5:30. So I was up at 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the 2-hour drive home at the end, which can be a little brutal. But I do want to mention to you, you said it's not that bad, 200, 210, but you just told us that you were going to go on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So you're talking right there, 1,000.
Yeah. Out of both sides of my face.
It's cheaper than buying a boat and maintaining a boat and doing it yourself and fueling the boat.
And it is, Ed. And you know what? A lot of times if you have 4 trips, a lot of times a couple of them won't go. I mean, if you get really lucky, the good thing is if you are on 4 trips in a row and they all go, it's because you're in an extended period of high pressure where it's probably going to be pretty calm. It won't be too bad. So if they do all go, at least you're not going to get your ass beat in the process.
Right.
Whereas if
Right.
you Saturday and Sunday, if they're 3 to 4 footers both days and it's really cold and rainy, it's like that is not fun, man.
No. Although I got to say, I prefer the colder the better for tog fishing. I don't know why.
Talk is
I want
cheap.
it to be cold.
Talk is cheap, baby.
Well,
Get
I'm the one who's out on the boat until their last trip last year. I think I was on a couple of boats, and then when they didn't go, I went on another boat because they continued sailing. I just there's something about it. I just think it's a better bite. You get bigger fish. And there's just something about fishing in the middle of winter when you got ice on the rod when you get out to the spot.
Yeah.
There's something cool about that.
12 degrees leaving Cape May Harbor one morning. My rod, I had 2 double-digit fish this day. My rod blew up. I was fishing an IM8 graphite rod made by a company called Muskie Innovations. I think it was so cold it just literally exploded.
Yeah.
I was using Abu Garcia reels at the time. I was using an Abu 7000 HSN. It was so cold that the grease became so thick it wouldn't let the dogs go in and stop the spool. My reel malfunctioned. When you're fishing that kind of cold, weird things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Those are fun stories. Yeah, Ed is definitely Ed wants to wear his Hawaiian t-shirts and
If I could afford it, I'd live in Florida during the wintertime up here.
Not me. No.
I don't like the cold.
I love hot, but I love cold. I like, what? It's almost like I love the extremes. It either needs to be really cold or it needs to be really hot.
I just put really good cold weather gear. I have this Grundens makes a new coat. It's called a Buoy X. It's like really thin, way warmer than my Stormer ever was. Muck boots, and I just go at it, and I have to be fairly comfortable. I do not like to be uncomfortable out there. So
it's warmer than the Stormer jacket, because I think we had the same one. The it's not the Typhoon, it's the other one.
I had a Typhoon.
Is that
mine was orange and black?
Okay, mine is black with the red.
Yeah. My Typhoon, it was very heavy and it was very clammy. Like it would get kind of get this damp feel to it. You know what I mean?
Aren't they neoprene?
Yeah.
Well, that's why.
With this liner, it has this lining in them. But this new Grundens Buoy X, like no kidding, what I did was I just changed, man. I wear a couple base layers. I'll put on a flannel shirt, a heated vest, and the Buoy X, and that's it. I'm good.
Yeah, I thought about the heated vest.
Game changer.
Yeah. So we got a quick question here for you. We're coming up close to the end of our time, but I want to get a couple questions in here. First of all, from James Flynn, what reels are you using now?
Oh, Daiwa. On my rig rod, Daiwa Saltiga 15, not the H. And Daiwa just discontinued this reel in the low speed gear, the 5.1 gear. They discontinued it, so I'm going to recommend you go to a Shimano Oshia jigger size 15 with the 5.1 gear ratio. That'll definitely get it done for you. Very nice quality reel.
All right, that's a good one. Next one, Frank, were you fishing with Rob on Sunday?
Rob Rommel? No, I was not. I was fishing with Captain Rob on the Mover on Sunday.
There you go. All right. And this one I thought is funny because you were talking about those 3 to 4 footers, and our boy KB, who's a kayak fisherman, I'm known as Chum Boy on 3 to 4. That's the worst. When you head out and somebody gets seasick. Oh, that's the worst. It's it's not so bad on a charter, but it's bad on a headboat, because they tend to puke on the deck and it tends to wash backwards down the rail.
I'm going to blow you away with something. You ready?
Yeah.
the night before, don't eat spicy foods, get plenty of sleep, take a couple Bonine or Bonnie or something like that. When you hop on the boat in the next morning, don't eat any breakfast, take another Bonnie or two, and buy this thing called a relief band. Okay, my cousin bought one he gave me one. It looks like a watch. I actually
Yeah.
have it there. It's recharging. And the relief band, you put a little bit of gel on your wrist and you put it on, and it's like a watch, and it stays right there. And it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is strongest. It gives you like a little electrical, little bzz, and it takes away the nausea like instantly.
Yeah.
So yesterday I had Greg Antel on the boat with me. Greg tends to get a little green sometimes, and he was a little concerned. It just so happens I have an extra relief band, and I gave it to him. And he told me, he said, I not only felt great all day, I didn't even feel a little nauseous or a little dizzy. So it's real, man. It's a solution, and it's not like you're taking more pills that are going to make you sleepier than we already are.
See, that's a good tip. See, you know, I don't get seasick, and I never have, but I've always felt that those have to work because it's based on acupressure. You know, quite often, you know, those bands, and I don't care what you say, acupressure does work. So
yeah, the little bands that looks like a button. This is actually like a little electrical thing, you know.
Yeah.
So,
but it's the spot that it's hitting is what's it's triggering it. So
yeah. I was on the boat in the springtime with Dean Danauer, and he was starting to turn a little green. And I was like, "Yo, man, here, take this, put it on." And we put it on. And I put it up to 5, and he was like, a couple minutes later, he's like, "Yeah, I feel fine." So it really, you know, even if you are getting a little ill, that can kind of pull it back out of it, you know.
So maybe, yeah. There's some people that if they were getting ill, I wouldn't give it to them. No, I just sit back and laugh at them.
Like Ed, I know how you guys are.
I don't get seasick, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I do need to interject though. Tom, your brother Tom, saying puke is not so bad.
Well, so he's worked in emergency rooms and ambulances, so he's used to puke.
I'm just saying Unitolis are weird.
It's bad to me. There's a reason I wasn't a first responder. I couldn't take all the blood, guts, and puke. And
I'm a sympathetic puker. Like if my kids are getting sick, it's not good. But I don't get seasick.
Yeah, I'm like that too. Don't go. No, not near me.
I've been in some crazy seas, man. But when you're sitting there anchored up and it's slow and the bite's slow and you know it's just not good, and the guy next to you starts puking, it's just not a good place for my head to be.
No. Unless it's that one guy, then it's funny. Yeah. Then it's funny. I've had that a couple times, but I also have to say tip of the cap to those guys that know that they get sick, but they power through the entire day and they fish as much as possible. They don't start whining about going back to the dock, which they typically do on private boats. You know, I don't feel good. Well, you should have said something 3 hours ago when we broke the inlet. We're not going back another 40 miles to get, to get home now. Yeah, you're in it for the day.
Doing the things that you can do, you know, take two Bonnies the night before you go to bed. Don't eat fried chicken wings the night before you're going to the boat. Don't eat.
It's my favorite meal.
In the morning, don't go get hot cakes and sausage and go on the boat and like think you're some kind of a tough guy because you're going to be puking it up like crazy.
Yeah, and the important thing is once you get there, it's really tough to bring yourself back. So do the things to prep, because then even if you've done the things to prepare, it's easier to pull yourself back. You know, like with the relief band, right? Mm-hmm. But if you don't prepare for it and you did eat all that stuff and you didn't take any Dramamine or whatever beforehand, you can't. It's too late once you're out there to start. You have to be well into your maintenance plan ahead of time. Now you got some of these guys, you know, for egg omelet.
Ben doesn't eat because he doesn't want to go to the bathroom.
If it's gonna be a rough day, a lot of times I don't eat on the boat. I'll make all day with a couple bottles of water and you know, maybe I'll grab a little snack or two later in the day if it's not too rough and if I'm feeling good. But yeah, you're right. I don't go out there and be eating hoagies and wonder why.
I can eat a 4-course meal and not even think twice.
I can too, usually. But But I do have planned in my days. The trip back always starts with a trip to Wawa, so I always identify it on the way to the boat if it's
Sure.
a new dock, so I know
Yeah.
exactly where I'm heading. Yeah. So my brother's saying, so I shouldn't be 12 beers in before leaving the dock.
No
Now,
time.
my brother does not get seasick, and he can actually hold his beer. So Tom, I'll give you 10 beers, and then you're done. That's it. Then we're not going. So, all right. So, Frank, we're up against it right now. I do want to ask you though: is there one thing that you would just say to people that are just getting ready to start hitting the water for Tog? Like, what's one tip or just one bit of insight that you would leave everybody before they hit the water for the season?
Well, if you want to focus on catching bigger blackfish, you have to really focus on not losing them. And what I mean by that is the mechanics of your rigging have to be meticulous. And I hear Bruno over there screaming at me.
Yeah.
Just the mechanics, learning how to rig your braided line to your top shot, how to tie your snafu rig into your double line. These are all things. If you break off fish, it's because you tied a bad knot or you're using the wrong line or something, and the line just breaks. The other thing is, if you hook the fish, and if you don't really know how to fight a fish like a big fish, if you hook the fish and then, oh yeah, I got him on, and then you lower your rod and you start reeling in, as you lower the rod, you're letting the fish swim right back into the wreck. So learning to rig meticulously for large fish is key, and learning how to fight these large fish is key too. And you fight large fish just like you fight small fish. You can't tell what's biting you. They all bite kind of the same way. Sometimes really big bites turn out to be really small fish, and the opposite is true also. So really focusing on your rigging and getting that really dialed in, and then really learning how to fight these fish will equate to you getting more big fish in the net, rather than you being one of the guys that they always break off or he always loses them.
Yeah. And we all know those guys always breaking off. It's never their fault. And you look at them and you're like, well, I can tell you 3 things you did that caused it, but not your fault.
Okay.
I'm staying out of it.
Oh yeah, we all know, and the funny thing is, it'll be this one guy, and you've seen this guy do this. This one guy's on this party boat every Sunday, and he keeps doing the same thing, and he keeps losing these fish. It's like, but
yeah, it was the hook. It was something else. It got cut off. Well, that little curly Q on the end says that you're not failed.
right.
That's not a clean slice. That's right on the hook. I don't get it. Or your hook didn't work. Well, my Gamakatsu ate all. Well, that worked. Why didn't yours work? Yeah, get a lot of that. Well,
It's
Frank,
heartbreaking because you spend so much money on these trips, and when something fails that I can prevent, I really take that personal, man. I am like on a mission to not lose a fish if there's something that I can do to prevent it.
Yeah, and we've all been there. I had this year. I had I don't know. It was a nice hit. It was a fluke. It was a fluke rig, and I had just tied it, and it was in the wind. I wasn't paying attention, and I was like, it's good enough. I got a hit, and wouldn't you know, my FG knot slid right off. And when I was done, I was like, I know what I did wrong. I never cinched it before I tossed it out there. So it was just on the hit and the set. It just disappeared. And then I bring out the braid and the little curl in the end. I was like, yeah, it's 100% my fault. I missed that fish.
Heartbreak.
Totally. Yeah. And that was the first time that I ever did that. But I should have. I knew that I didn't do it right. But I wanted to get the line out in the water. So that's what I got. I lost a nice Captain Hank's bucktail, and the teaser hook, and the gulps, and a little bit of pride all at the same time.
Now you're going to confession.
Yeah. I seem to confess a lot on these things, but hey, we all do. I don't want people to think that I'm saying that I'm never that guy, because I am. I'm definitely that guy.
Yeah.
So, Ed, do you have anything you want to add before we wrap this one up?
No, other than with the temperatures, just be safe, wear your life preserver, especially because you're in New Jersey now and we have to be told to do everything. But no, other than that, keep your hands clean. Them green crabs are gross, and that's it.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Next week, we are going to have Long Island Lethals on. We're going to talk again some more tog fishing, black fishing. We're going to be talking about that in Long Island Sound. So we're going to go shift a little bit north. I'm sure we're going to be talking striped bass in that one as well. Maybe a little bit of boating etiquette.
I was going to say inconsiderate boaters.
Inconsiderate boaters that try to knock you off your spots on video. We'll see about that, but it should be a good one. Ed, real quick, I don't know the answer to this, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. Are you doing any specials or anything with Captain Hank's Tackle for Black Friday?
No.
Okay. All right. I may be doing something on Fat Dad Fishing, but just look on Facebook. You'll see it, guys. If I do, there'll be a coupon code. Frank, you doing anything special?
Working and fishing.
Yeah. You got to work so you can fish.
Yeah, I'm off for Thanksgiving, and then I'm working Friday. And in my business, Black Friday is usually pretty busy because I work for Roto-Rooter. I do water restoration. So when you call up Roto-Rooter and your toilet overflowed, they send me out, and we call the insurance company and help it get cleaned up and make sure you're not, walking around in poop water for the rest of your life.
So interesting fact that I learned last week, the busiest day for plumbers is Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is the malls and the stores, because they have so many people using the bathrooms, they end up overflowing toilets left and right.
In the plumbing industry, it's actually referred to as Brown Friday. Seriously. And the funny thing, on Friday, there will be all kitchen sink calls coming in on Thanksgiving until about 2 or 3 o'clock. And then the kitchen sink clogs stop, and it's all clogged toilets after that.
I wonder why.
Turkey's got to go somewhere.
Too funny.
Good.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Frank, for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back on Monday with Long Island Lethals. Until then, get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.